Americans drink over 900 million gallons of wine every year, and almost none of them have any idea what's actually in their glass. Unlike every other food and drink on grocery store shelves, wine in the United States has no ingredient label, no nutrition facts, no sugar content. The federal government allows 76 chemical additives in winemaking, and producers can hide every single one from consumers. Independent lab testing has detected arsenic at 5 times the EPA's safe drinking water limit. Herbicide residues have shown up in some of America's most popular bottles. And one of the largest wine producers in this country was convicted of federal grape fraud, and they're still selling millions of cases today. The EU required full ingredient transparency on wine in 2023. America hasn't even started the conversation. These are 8 U.S. wine brands with documented contamination, undisclosed additives, and practices that should concern anyone who's ever poured themselves a glass. Let's get into it. 8. Josh Cellars. Starting at number 8, Josh Cellars has quietly become one of the best-selling wine brands in America, moving over 7.5 million cases per year. The branding feels personal, like you're buying wine from some small family vineyard. The label even tells the story of founder Joseph Carr honoring his father Josh. But behind that heartwarming story is an industrial-scale operation owned by Deutsche Family Wine and Spirits, one of the largest alcohol distributors in the country. Josh Cellars sources grapes from California's massive Central Valley, the same agricultural region that supplies most of America's cheapest bulk wine. The grapes are then processed at Ray Station Winery in Mendocino County, a facility that received a cease and desist order from California's North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board in 2024 for producing intense foul odors affecting the surrounding community. That's the facility making millions of bottles of wine that end up on dinner tables across America. Here's what makes this particularly concerning. Unlike almost every other food product you buy at the grocery store, wine labels in the United States are not required to list ingredients. The TTB, which is the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, regulates wine instead of the FDA, and federal regulations permit 76 approved additives in winemaking. None of them have to appear on the label except sulfites. That means finding agents made from fish bladders, milk proteins, egg whites, crustacean shells, synthetic preservatives, commercial enzymes, and coloring concentrates can all go into your glass without a single word on the bottle. Josh Cellars doesn't voluntarily disclose its full ingredient list either. You're drinking on faith. And at the scale they produce, the odds of minimal intervention winemaking are essentially zero. But the additive problem gets much worse with this next brand. 7. Apothic Red. At number 7, Apothic Red has become one of America's favorite red wines by doing something that traditional winemakers consider borderline deceptive. It's marketed and shelved alongside dry red wines, sitting right next to Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot in the red wine section. Consumers pick it up thinking they're getting a standard red blend. They're not. Independent analysis shows Apothic Red contains approximately 16 grams of residual sugar per liter. To put that in perspective, a genuinely dry red wine contains between half a gram and 2 grams per liter. Apothic has 8 to 16 times more sugar than a real dry red. UK wine critic Tim Atkin publicly called it undrinkable because of how sweet it is. And yet millions of Americans buy it every year thinking it's just another red blend, because the label never tells them otherwise. Apothic is owned by E&J Gallo, the world's largest winery, which controls over 130 wine brands. Their portfolio includes Barefoot, Dark Horse, Carlo Rossi, Black Box, and dozens more. When one company controls that many brands, the illusion of choice on the shelf masks the reality that most of those bottles came from the same industrial pipeline, the same Central Valley grapes, the same processing facilities. The sugar in Apothic likely comes partly from a product called Mega Purple, which is the wine industry's worst-kept secret. Mega Purple is a thick, syrupy grape concentrate made from ruby red grapes by the Vidal Company in Fresno, California. It contains 68% sugar. Winemakers add it at tiny concentrations to deepen color and boost sweetness. And because it's technically grape-derived, it requires zero disclosure on the label. Approximately 10,000 gallons of Mega Purple are sold annually, enough to treat an estimated 25 million bottles of wine. A Monterey County winery president admitted that virtually everyone in the industry uses it. You would never know any of this from reading the bottle, and that's exactly the point. Speaking of hidden sugar, this next brand takes it to another level entirely. 6. Stella Rosa. At number 6, Stella Rosa doesn't just bend the rules on sugar content, it obliterates them. Independent testing shows Stella Rosa contains approximately 100 to 115 grams of residual sugar per liter. For reference, Coca-Cola contains about 108 grams of sugar per liter. You are literally drinking wine that is as sweet as soda, and in some cases even sweeter. Stella Rosa is owned by the Riboli family through San Antonio Winery in Los Angeles, and it has become enormously popular, particularly with younger and casual wine drinkers who enjoy the sweetness without realizing just how much sugar they're actually consuming. Because wine labels in the US don't require nutritional information, there's no sugar content, no calorie count, no carbohydrate disclosure. Someone watching their blood sugar, managing diabetes, or simply trying to eat healthier has absolutely no way of knowing what they're consuming from the bottle alone. The European Union addressed this problem. As of December 2023, all wines sold in the EU must disclose full ingredients and nutritional information, either on the physical label or through a QR code. The United States has not followed suit despite a 20-year-old petition requesting the same transparency. Wine remains one of the only consumable products in America where the manufacturer has no legal obligation to tell you what's inside. Stella Rosa benefits enormously from this regulatory gap. If that bottle had a nutrition label, like every other drink in the store, sales would collapse overnight. But sugar deception isn't the only thing hiding in America's wines. This next brand has been flagged for something far more alarming. 5. Sutter Home. Approaching our top 5 worst offenders, Sutter Home has been a fixture in American kitchens for decades, particularly their signature White Zinfandel. The brand is now owned by Trinchero Family Estates, but the real concern isn't ownership. It's what independent laboratories have found inside the bottles. In 2019, the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, commonly known as USPIRG, published laboratory results testing popular wines for glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup herbicide. Sutter Home Merlot tested at 51.4 parts per billion, the highest glyphosate contamination of any product tested in the entire study, including all the beers they analyzed. That's not a small number. That's the worst result across the board. Glyphosate enters wine through conventional vineyard management. Growers spray Roundup along vine rows to control weeds, and the chemical gets absorbed through vine roots and bark before being translocated into the fruit itself. In Napa County alone, over 50,000 pounds of glyphosate were applied to vineyards in a single year. The World Health Organization's Cancer Research Agency classified glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen in 2015. Bayer, which now owns Monsanto, has paid over $10 billion settling lawsuits from people who developed cancer after regular Roundup exposure. Now, the wine industry argues that the levels detected in wine are too low to cause harm on their own, and that may be true for a single glass. But the concern is cumulative exposure. If your morning cereal has glyphosate, your bread has glyphosate, your produce has glyphosate, and your evening wine has glyphosate, those small doses add up across your entire diet, day after day, year after year. Sutter Home doesn't test for glyphosate and doesn't disclose any test results. You'd never know about the contamination unless you went looking for independent lab data. And they're far from the only brand with this problem. 4. Barefoot Wine. At number 4, Barefoot Wine holds the distinction of being America's best-selling wine brand, period. Owned by E&J Gallo, Barefoot moves tens of millions of cases annually and has become the default wine for budget-conscious consumers across the country. But laboratory testing has repeatedly flagged this brand for contamination. The same USPIRG study found Barefoot Cabernet Sauvignon contained 36.3 parts per billion of glyphosate. Separately, the Moms Across America Testing Initiative found Barefoot Wine at 18.68 parts per billion using HPLC mass spectrometry, which is considered the gold standard for pesticide detection. For comparison, Bonterra Sauvignon Blanc, an organic wine, registered just 0.38 parts per billion in the same testing round. That's nearly a 100-fold difference between what you'd find in a conventionally produced Barefoot bottle versus an organic alternative. Beyond pesticides, Barefoot Moscato contains approximately 64 grams of sugar per liter at 8.5% alcohol. That's more sugar than most fruit juices, and again, none of this appears anywhere on the label. A consumer buying Barefoot Moscato has no way to compare its sugar content against any other drink in the store because wine is the only beverage category exempt from nutritional disclosure. Barefoot's massive market position makes the contamination findings especially troubling. When the most widely consumed wine in the country consistently shows elevated pesticide residues, the problem isn't one brand, it's the entire conventional wine production system. But contamination isn't the only scandal in America's wine industry. This next brand was built on outright fraud. 3. Charles Shaw, 2 Buck Chuck. Claiming the number 3 spot, Charles Shaw, affectionately known as 2 Buck Chuck, is sold exclusively at Trader Joe's and has become almost a cultural phenomenon. At roughly $3 to $4 per bottle, it's the cheapest wine most Americans can buy. But the company behind it, Bronco Wine Company, has a criminal history that most consumers have never heard of. In 1993, Bronco Wine Company founder Fred Franzia and the company were indicted by federal authorities for grape fraud. Workers at Bronco were instructed to sprinkle premium Zinfandel leaves over truckloads of cheap Grenache, Colombard, and Carignan grapes to disguise them as higher-value varietals. Franzia himself called the practice blessing the loads. The total fraud ring involved $26 million in misrepresented grapes. Bronco pleaded no contest. The company paid $2.5 million in fines. Fred Franzia personally paid $500,000 and was barred from the company for 5 years. And it didn't stop there. Bronco was later sued by the Napa Valley Vintners Association for putting Napa on wine labels despite using Central Valley grapes. Bronco lost at every court level, all the way up through the California Supreme Court. The arsenic situation compounds these concerns. In the 2015 class action lawsuit that tested over 1,300 bottles of wine, Charles Shaw White Zinfandel registered approximately 31 parts per billion of arsenic, more than 3 times the EPA's drinking water standard of 10 parts per billion. The United States has no established arsenic limit for wine, which is how brands like Charles Shaw operate in a regulatory gray zone. Bronco Wine Company currently operates over 35,000 vineyard acres and maintains more than 250 brand names. The same company convicted of passing off cheap grapes as premium varietals is still one of the largest wine producers in the country. If that doesn't shake your confidence, this next brand should. Franzia. Coming in at number 2, Franzia boxed wine holds a near-permanent spot in the American wine landscape. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it moves enormous volume. Franzia is owned by the Wine Group, one of the 3 mega corporations that control the majority of wine Americans actually drink. In the 2015 arsenic lawsuit, Franzia Vintners Select White Grenache tested at approximately 50 parts per billion of arsenic, 5 times the EPA's drinking water limit. That was one of the single highest arsenic readings of any wine tested across all 1,300 bottles analyzed by Beverage Grades Laboratory. The overall study found that roughly 1/4 of all wines tested exceeded EPA drinking water standards for arsenic, and the pattern was unmistakable. The cheaper the wine, the higher the arsenic concentration. Nearly every wine flagged was priced under $10, with the worst offenders under $5. Why do cheap wines have more arsenic? The answer lies in sourcing. Budget wines use grapes from California's Central Valley, where soil conditions, irrigation water, and decades of agricultural chemical use create measurable arsenic levels in the fruit. When those grapes are processed at massive industrial scale with minimal quality controls, the arsenic concentrates further through fermentation and filtration. Premium wineries using estate-grown grapes from carefully managed vineyards simply don't have this problem at the same scale. The wine group also acquired Cupcake Vineyards and, in 2025, purchased Meiomi Woodbridge by Robert Mondavi and several other brands from Constellation in a deal covering a 12 million case portfolio. That means the same corporate infrastructure producing Franzia boxed wine now controls an even larger slice of what Americans drink. Brands that look completely unrelated on the shelf are flowing through the same corporate pipeline. The arsenic lawsuit was ultimately dismissed because no plaintiff alleged actual health injury, and the judge ruled that existing Proposition 65 labels were sufficient. But dismissal doesn't mean the arsenic isn't there. It means the legal system decided consumers don't have standing to complain about it. And the brand that earned the #1 spot combines nearly every problem on this list into a single glass. 1. Beringer. Taking the #1 spot as the worst U.S. wine brand you should avoid, Beringer Founders Estates combines pesticide contamination, undisclosed additives, and industrial-scale production into one of America's most recognized labels. The USPIRG glyphosate study found Beringer Founders Estates Moscato at 42.6 parts per billion, the second highest of any product tested. Combined with elevated results across multiple testing initiatives, Beringer consistently ranks among the most contaminated conventional wines available. Beringer is owned by Treasury Wine Estates, an Australian multinational that operates dozens of brands globally. Their Founders Estates line is designed for mass-market retail, sourcing grapes from California's Central Valley and processing them through large-scale industrial winemaking. At this volume, the use of approved additives including fining agents, stabilizers, commercial enzymes, color-enhancing concentrates, and acidity regulators is standard practice. None of it appears on the label. What makes Beringer particularly egregious is the disconnect between brand perception and product reality. The Beringer name dates back to 1876, and the winery's Napa Valley estate is a registered historical landmark. That heritage creates an impression of tradition and craftsmanship. But the Founders Estates line you actually find on grocery store shelves has nothing to do with that legacy. It's mass-produced Central Valley wine wearing a premium name. And here's the bigger picture that applies to every single brand on this list. The U.S. government permits 76 additives in wine production with no ingredient disclosure requirement. The European Union now mandates full transparency. The United States refuses to follow suit. Until that changes, American wine consumers are operating completely blind, trusting labels that tell them almost nothing about what they're actually drinking. There you have it. 8 wine brands loaded with undisclosed additives, pesticide residues, hidden sugars, and in some cases, a convicted fraud history, all hiding behind labels that tell you next to nothing about what's actually inside the bottle. But here's something worth considering beyond just which brands to avoid. Even the cleanest, most carefully produced wine is still alcohol. It's still a toxin your liver has to process. It's still linked to increased cancer risk, disrupted sleep, dehydration, and long-term organ damage. No amount of organic certification changes that fundamental reality. So instead of swapping one wine brand for another, maybe the real move is swapping wine for something that actually helps your body. Fresh pressed vegetable juice, green smoothies, sparkling water with real fruit, kombucha, herbal teas. Your liver, your gut, and your sleep quality will thank you within a week. If this video changed the way you think about what's in your glass, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which brand shocked you the most. Share this with anyone you know who deserves to know what they're really drinking. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss content exposing the hidden truth about everyday products. Thanks for watching. Until next time, drink smarter.